Hello again. So last but not least, this is panel 4, ensuring compliance with the Cyber Resilience Act. The last panel will provide insights about the challenges and opportunities of establishing a consistent conformity regime for CRA implementation. I leave the floor to my colleague Sofia Roxana Banica from ENISA to introduce her speakers and dive into the discussions. Thank you, Roxana, and all the panelists.
Thank you. I need my slides. Someone could help me? Okay, great. So thank you for introduction. As my colleague said, this panel will provide insights about the challenges and opportunities of establishing a consistent conformity regime for the CRA implementation. And it's a teamwork for increasing cyber resilience of the EU single market. Therefore, I would like to present the team of this panel today. It's not working? Okay, great. So we have with us Maika von Hrembach. She is the demiurge of CRA Act, Cyber Resilience Act. So I would like to give her the floor to say a few things about her role inside of European Commission. It's our regulator for today's panel. And after that, I would like to present Dennis Kugler, head of section of standardization. The same, I would like to ask you to say a few words about your role. It's the representative of the member state in our panel. We have Jose Pulido, consultancy manager on GTSEC, with the role of CAB for our panel, and Volmar Lotz, ISAP, the software developer and AK manufacturer in the CRA world. So Maika, a few words about your role.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Roxana. So I'm currently team leader for certification at DG Connect at the European Commission. And in this capacity, I'm overseeing, let's say, the implementation of the Cybersecurity Act and the European Cybersecurity Certification Framework across schemes. And of course, we also, in our unit, closely cooperate with the other teams that are also working on the content of the different schemes that are currently under development in the context of the framework. I used to work, and I'm still also closely involved in the implementation of the Cyber Resilience Act. So I've been part of the Cyber Resilience Act adventure, not exactly from the beginning, but at least from the drafting phase and then throughout the negotiations. And of course, in that context, the role of certification and the interplay with the Cybersecurity Act has been continuously a discussion topic with both co-legislators. And there has been a special attention throughout the negotiations to ensure consistency and alignment between the two, and also to give a particular role to European cybersecurity certification in the CRA. So now in the implementation phase, as team leader for certification, I also closely work, of course, with the team focusing more specifically on the CRA implementation to build these bridges, especially when it comes to conformity assessment.
Thank you, Dennis.
Well, yes, I keep it brief.
I was too long.
No way. So my section is it called? Yeah, section is responsible. It's a running gag. My section is responsible for all the standardization activities of BSI, coordinating them, not necessarily doing all of them, but coordinating them. And we are also the supervising part of the NCCA, which means we have the conformity assessment bodies and market surveillance, which pretty much belongs or explains why I'm also involved with the CRA.
Thank you, Jose.
Well, I'm Jose Pulido. I'm currently the manager of the consultancy area in JTSEC. I'm in charge of leading the team of cybersecurity consultants in our company. Our job in this area consists pretty much in making sure that the vendors that need a certification finally get it. So we help and support them through an integral services through the whole process. And we have been involved in several projects during the last years with international standards such as common criteria, which now is slowly being elevated in Europe by UCC, and that has a lot of importance with respect to the topics that we are going to discuss in this panel, but we are also engaged in the past with customers and currently in certifications according to other schemes like National ENISA in Spain and other. So I would like to bring the perspective of CAP. I mean, as a CAP, we have a lot of different divisions. I'm not directly involved in the evaluations, but in the security inspections, but I'm directly in direct and close contact and collaboration with the other team members in my company that take that role. So I will be very happy to. Also, I was involved with ENISA in one of the studies that was launched last year in order to explore the interplay between UCC and CRA in order to try to obtain the presumption of conformity to CRA through UCC certification, which was also done with the collaboration of Roxana. And I hope that this can help me to provide a good view of the situation and to share with you in this panel.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Roxana. My name is Volkmar Lotz. I'm representing SAP here. I guess most of you know who SAP is and also what we are doing. So we are one of the world's largest software vendors for enterprise and business service. Most of our current offers are coming in the form of cloud services because that is what our customers demand and where they get also the most efficient solutions. Now you might ask why I'm sitting here or so. We are about cloud services, but it's about software, right? We'll talk about software and maybe some specific challenges that we see about software. And I also think that many of our offers that we are doing, software as a service in particular, if it is not part of an essential service that would be subject to the NIS2 directive, software as a service for business functionality is in scope of the CRA, which means that our certification efforts are likely entering into a new dimension. So far, they have been focusing more on platform services, for instance, but not necessarily on the business applications themselves, which is what I assume is changing with the CRA coming. I myself, as you can see here, I'm working in research or so, which is also responding to some of the challenges in terms of efficiency of tools, of new methodologies that we can use in order to manage the complexity of certification that comes along with the CRA.
Thank you so much. So now, as you know a little bit about each of our panelists, let's set up the scene. So we took a lot of time, more than 30 years, to integrate the EU single market. We are happy to have this EU single market in Europe, but the environment in which single market is operates today, its change is totally different. Therefore, the risk related to the security of supply chain, to the union software dependency, impacting negative of internal market. Therefore, our regulator create a regulator framework in order to mitigate all those risks. So as you can see in the left side, the rose part, the one where we identify all these risks, a regulator took them, put them in a regulation. Here we talk about the CRA. And after that, we hand over to the right side. And here in the right side, we have to find solution of how to implement properly this regulation, how to establish a consistent conformity regime at the EU level where all categories of assessment, all the available routes to market, from self-assessment to certification, and of course the harmonized standards will work together for having this consistency implemented. For today's panel, the discussion will be around the three main topics. The first topic is how to establish this consistent conformity regime. Then we'll talk about cybersecurity certification for CRA presumption of conformity, what we have and what we can have, and the assessment of manufacture processes. So, Micah, I would like to ask you, based on your role, what are the products categories and what are the available routes to market for each, and who is doing what?
Thank you. Yeah, maybe this gives the opportunity to remind a bit what is the approach to conformity assessment in the CRA. I guess by now most of you are familiar with the risk-based approach that has been agreed for the Cyber Resilience Act when it comes to conformity assessment. So this means in practice that for most of the products, there is flexibility for the manufacturers in how they choose to do conformity assessment. So all manufacturers have to demonstrate conformity, but there is flexibility on whether you do it via self-assessment or whether you go to a third party using or not harmonized standards. So that's, let's say, what we call the default category. And in this category, you can find, well, all sorts of products. The scope of the Cyber Resilience Act is rather large. We have defined, and this was in the initial proposal of the Commission, a list of products that should, let's say, by definition, be subject to conformity, to a stricter conformity assessment procedure. And this is justified, let's say, based mainly on the functionality of the product, meaning that the role of this product, if I can simplify, in an IT system or in the supply chain leads to the fact that in case of an incident or including the exploitation of a vulnerability, this product will likely have quite extensive material or non-material damages on other products or on people. And this is the list of important and critical products. So throughout the negotiations, there has been some changes to this list of products, including the name. But the approach is more or less the same as it was initially foreseen in the Commission proposal. So we have a list of important products that are divided in Class 1 and Class 2 to ensure also proportionality. Only for Class 2 products, you have mandatory third-party assessment. For Class 1 products, you can either choose to apply harmonized standards or if you don't apply harmonized standards for certain essential requirements, you will need to go to a third-party conformity assessment body. And then the novelty in the agreed text is that the co-legislators have defined a list of critical products that might be subject to mandatory cybersecurity certification. So I stress might because there is now a list of critical products. However, unless the empowerment of the Commission is triggered to actually make mandatory the European cybersecurity certification, the application of a European cybersecurity certification, these products that include, for instance, smart cards, will be subject to the same regime as the Class 2 products, meaning they will be subject to to third-party assessment. So this is quite a complex, maybe, setting, but I think ultimately what matters is that there is quite some flexibility also, even if you are subject to third-party assessment, in how you actually do this conformity assessment. And this flexibility also gives a choice now in how we will choose to implement the Cyber Resilience Act, and how we will specify these different possibilities. So,
Micah,
yeah?
sorry for interrupting you.
Yes, sorry.
Because we move to the next slide, and we need to set up the CRA assessment
Yes.
infrastructure. Who is doing what? So looking at the slide, I saw that we talk about EU type examination, we talk about full quality assurance and the certification scheme. Can you give us more insights, please?
Yes, so indeed looking a bit more at the different types of conformity assessment procedures that are foreseen in the CRA, and I think it will maybe set a bit the scene for the discussion. So the manufacturer, when in doing third-party assessment, so even if you belong to the default category, actually as manufacturer you might choose to do a third-party assessment because it gives you more legal certainty, and of course we shouldn't forget that self-assessment also requires a lot of internal expertise and capabilities. So third-party assessment will likely play a very important role in the CRA beyond only these list of products that I mentioned earlier. And so how can third-party be done? There is the possibility to specify conformity assessment procedures under the NLF, so under the new legislative framework. So either you have what we call Module B plus C. So it's basically it's a product certification in the end. It's the certification of the technical design of your product, but there is also certification of processes. And that's important to keep in mind. So it's a combination of product certification and certification of your vulnerability handling processes, because in CRA we have the life cycle approach, and of your production processes that don't need to be certified by a third party, but that need to be, let's say, self-certified, or at least controlled by the manufacturer itself. The other possibility under the NLF to do third-party conformity assessment is to have more a process-focused certification, which means that it's the quality management or the quality assurance system of the manufacturer that is being certified, and that is being checked to ensure that basically the right requirements, testing procedures are applied to the different products that are concerned by the legislation. And here again, of course, it's important that also the vulnerability management processes are taken into account. And then beyond, let's say, these conformity assessment procedures that are provided in the Cyber Resilience Act, the Cyber Resilience Act also foresees indeed the possibility for the manufacturer to demonstrate conformity through a European cybersecurity certification scheme. And here the Commission needs to basically specify or define the presumption of conformity for the scheme. So it means that there needs to be a kind of formal act via delegated act where the Commission says, okay, this scheme can be used to demonstrate conformity with the CRA. So many possibilities that can give room, I think, for creativity to find also the best solution and the best routes for manufacturers and different type of manufacturers to comply with the CRA.
Thank you, Micah. So, Dennis, I have to tell you 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, you have to tell us the answer. What are the foreseeable major challenges for CRA implementation and also for market surveillance, because you as a member state, you are playing this role. So 3 minutes.
Time starts right now? Okay. So the major challenge is the huge number of products that fall under the CRA. Full stop. No, 3 minutes, I still have some time. So I have no idea how many products are on the European market, which digital elements that fall under the CRA, but I expect something between a couple of thousands products and probably a few million products. Whatever you take, the assumption is that 10% of those products fall into the category of important products or critical products. 10% of those numbers is still a huge number. So we are talking about a lot of products which have to undergo a third-party assessment. And that might turn out to be complicated. So luckily, we have the possibility of using presumption of conformity. So applying a harmonized standard will allow you to use self-assessment instead of third-party assessment. On the other hand, putting on my hat of the standardization coordinator, I don't believe that we will anytime soon have enough harmonized standard that you can make use of that approach. So still, you have lots of products without harmonized standard where you have to undergo third-party assessment. So now putting on the head of a potential notified body, I have no idea how to have sufficient notified bodies, conformity assessment bodies that will be able to do the job. So the only, and again, accreditation for for conformity assessment bodies requires a standard in principle. So without a standard, it's difficult to accreditation and to notify those bodies then. So the only thing that leaves, what's left is presumption of conformity using, for example, UCC, which again is extremely time consuming and might end up in a problem, just by making sure that all the products in time will be certified or conformity assessed. On the other hand, you also ask for the market surveillance. Market surveillance is exactly the opposite problem. We have 90% of the products, a huge number, which don't have to undergo any third-party assessment. So we can expect that the documentation that they produce for self-assessment is far away from what we can use to do market surveillance efficiently. Though this will in turn then end up being also a problem because you have to check products. 90% of the products won't have good documentation. And assessing the essential requirements just like you do that with safety, from the outside is simply not possible. You have to really look into the product that the essential requirements are fulfilled, which will be really expensive and a huge effort.
Thank you for your answer. So let's drag a conclusion. If we don't have harmonized standards, then we have to have plenty of notified bodies in the market to perform assessment. If we have plenty of notified bodies in the market, then the market surveillance authority should have thousands of employees in order to monitor the notified bodies. Sounds complicated. So, Volmar, what are the specific challenges of CRA implementation from software development perspective as a company or as a SAP?
Thank you for asking that. And following up on what Dennis was just saying, I would assume that at least half of those products that you were mentioning are software products. And I think also this poses some particular challenges. I don't talk about challenges with respect to meeting the security requirements of the CRA. So actually, these are part of the security homework you have to do anyway. Also, certification is not something new for the industry. In my company, for instance, we're regularly doing many types of different certifications from C5 for cloud services up to ISO 27001, SOC 1, SOC 2 or so. So this is not the challenge. The challenge, I think, is that we are talking about a whole, for the industry, whole new area of processes, of I have not done this systematically, but my guess would be if you ask any development manager or product owner in a software company what the NLF is, they will not know what to answer. So what I would assume there is really a large say need for education, for transition periods, for consulting, for making the software industry familiar with those new processes. And even if it is default category, still, I said, ask again any development manager or product owner, what is module B or module H or so, they will not know. So there is a gap to fill. The second challenge I see here is regarding the certification schemes that are used. I just said before, certification is not exactly new for the industry, but most of the guidance and the discussions about mappings and the like so far, at least the one that I have seen, are based on EUCC and mapping of EUCC to the requirements or so, which is certainly most valid and valuable work. However, EUCC is likely not the scheme of choice for the software industry, simply based on the way how software is developed today, with agile methodologies, with frequent releases, with spontaneous delivery, with updates over the air, whatever you can imagine. And that means that the basic assumptions of common criteria about the life cycle of a software product or so are not necessarily valid anymore for the way how software is developed today. So there's also a gap to fill, and I would also really like to suggest to not only focus the discussion on EUCC, but also look into EUCS or any other, say, more software-focused, more agile approach that we can have. In that respect also, I appreciate a lot that the rolling work program that has recently been published includes also as a subject for the further consideration certification schemes for software development life cycles and related processes.
Thank you so much. So I want to ask you something, because you talk about process. So software industry wants process, wants methodology. They are a little bit away of UCC. Can you tell me how you are expecting to be assured this consistency? Because we talk about having a consistent conformity assessment regime, but stay in 1 minute.
Okay, I'll try. So, this is an aspect that I have not yet touched, or so, but which is equally important also. These type of methodologies that I was talking about are different. They also are reflecting a highly complex supply chain or so, and all of the elements in the supply chain are developed in a likely different way or so. Some are open source components, others are sub-services for a cloud service, others are commercial third-party products or so with different visibility. So some are fully transparent, like open source. Some are not transparent at all, like third-party software components. And yes, I don't have the answer yet, but I think there is a need also to look into how, say, cybersecurity can be assured in a consistent way across all of these different methodologies. Because talking about the supply chains, a software company like mine or so, we are not only producers of software and have our software been certified, but we're also consumers of software to a large extent. So we are also users of those certificates.
Okay, great. Great answer, but we will come back to you in the last topic of our panel. I would like to ask Jose, because you are the main interface with all the vendors, at least from Spain market. And they are coming to you and they are asking you what to do, how to do. And you know, at least you can figure out what do you think that they will prefer, what kind of route to market they will prefer to touch when we talk about CRA. They will go on the self-assessment, module age, or they will want to open the door and say, I want UCC.
Yeah, the the thing that I like to consider first to provide an answer to this question is the very wide scope of application of the CRA. So we are finding that it applies to several different vertical sectors with different approaches, different certification, if there are any strategies. So we can think, for example, that in the market there are certain sectors that have a long history or tradition of effort and investment in the certification market. In the past by CC, now by UCC. We can think, for example, in the market of smart cards or basically any of the sectors related to the critical products in the CRA. So they have built a lot of knowledge, invested a lot. So if going through UCC as a pathway for conformance is an option, if provided that we find an appropriate way to establish that presumption of conformity, they will reuse that approach. They will continue with their current certification strategy. But there are mature protection profiles, technical domains, methodologies, so there is no reason to skip that because they have also high assurance needs that are met by this type of certification. But what happens with other sectors where there was no obligation before CRA of meeting cybersecurity requirements or undergoing assessment, and no, they are obligated to. Micah discussed before the self-assessment option for non-critical and non-important products. So it might look very appealing to manufacturers, but we don't have to underestimate the complexity, the knowledge required, the effort taking. They have to prepare the risk assessment, the technical file. So sometimes could be more appropriate to have a third party or even a consultant helping you to do this. And in other cases, like for example, important products, some of them do follow the UCC certification approach already, but for others, to be honest, I don't have a clear view yet until this has been rolling out for more time and the assessment frameworks are more mature. We cannot know, but what I can tell for sure, and it has been already mentioned here, is that common criteria is time-consuming and effort-taking. So if there is an easier path through Module B and C or Module H, they will take it.
Thank you so much. Let's listen what our audience wants to say. I will take only the questions from physical participants for this session. So any question about how to build a consistent conformity assessment regime for CRA and of course for certification, module age and self-assessment? No question. This is good because this is very good. So, we have a question, sorry.
Yes, it works. I have one question. As I've heard, listened very carefully your panel. And I heard what Dennis said regarding EU CSA certification scheme and particularly ECC, which is the default solution maybe to better address the topic. Do you think that it would also work with the remote data processing part? Because as per the CRA, this part, which is something being executed on a remote server, being also part of the product, do you think that such scheme, UCC scheme, would also be applicable for the conformity assessment of the remote data processing parts, which is more kind of SAS, software as a service, bound to the product?
Maybe I can just... Is this working? Yeah. I don't necessarily want to respond to the question because I think maybe some of the panelists are much more well-equipped to reply to that, but I just wanted to clarify that at least from the Commission standpoint, we don't envisage EUCC as a silver bullet. We see, I mean, just also to maybe reassure the audience. I mean, what we want to make sure is that those manufacturers that use EUCC and that will choose to certify with EUCC will also benefit from the presumption of conformity, and that there will be an easy route for them to then demonstrate conformity with the CRA. because of course this will also be a strong incentive to use this certification, and we want to apply the principle, certify once. So, but just to also make this clear that we don't see necessarily that EUCC will be fit for all products. It will be mostly fit, even maybe for components, because there is also this difference that UCC often targets specific functionalities maybe of a product and not the full product, in a difference to CIA that indeed also includes the remote data processing. But then giving the floor maybe to, I don't know, Jose or Volkmar or Dennis.
If I may, the intention of a market regulation is that when you have a product that you want to put on the European market, you have to do a risk analysis first, and you have to look at the essential requirements. You can argue that some of the essential requirements are not applicable to your product, but in the end, all those applicable essential requirements have to be fulfilled. Otherwise, you are not allowed to affix the CE mark. If you do the presumption of conformity with EUCC, for example, you don't have to necessarily cover all the essential requirements with that certification. So that leaves you to the possibility that you have to do a certification, and those parts of the essential requirements that are not covered by your certification. For example, if you have remote processing, which is not covered by the EUCC certificate, then you have to do that separately. Then you have to do other conformity assessment mechanisms to demonstrate that you also fulfill the remaining requirements.
We have another. We have another question.
Yeah, thank you. Nikos Mavrogiannopoulos from Asabloy. I would like, you mentioned before that you don't expect that the self-assessment will going to result to documentation that is going to help you assess. But how can the EU institutions prevent the self-assessment becoming a race to the bottom, so that we don't compete with companies that do not do self-assessment?
For you.
I'm not sure that this is a question for me. I mean, self-assessment, this is exactly the problem. Yeah, self-assessment only works if you have market surveillance. Someone has to make sure that those rules that you have to obey are really implemented in a way that is sufficient to fulfill the essential requirements. This can only be done by market surveillance. So market surveillance has to have a very clever way of figuring out which products are potentially not sufficiently implementing the essential requirements. And then you have to look that up and figure out what's wrong with the product, go to the vendor, talk to the vendor, ask the vendor to please bring the product in a sufficiently secure state. You have to do updates and so on, or you have to remove the product from the market. That's the other way. So only if that control mechanism sufficiently works, and we discussed that also, we have in Europe more than one market surveillance, and you can focus on special types of products in a certain country potentially, but altogether we have to set up a market surveillance in Europe where those products which are self-assessed, especially those products which are self-assessed and do not fulfill the requirements, are somehow identified.
To add some things of what you said, so it's not only about the market surveillance as a reactive role, it's about also market surveillance proactive role, when the market surveillance will know what is the threat landscape in a country, and they will go and collect the devices and look inside and will say, okay, this is an issue. We have to take in consideration to call back from the market some products that are posing the internal market or non-internal market at risk. So, like this. Yeah, please.
Jose Ruiz from A+. It's more a question, a concern. I mean, it's clear that we need harmonized standard for CRA, but I think the Commission launched a call to create 25 new standard. Who is going to do this? I mean, we are very few people working, so 25 standard, even I cannot count 25 people that we work actively on that. So I think it's a big concern. I mean, when I read it, I said, if you have
that's
any
what I said, yeah.
25.
Yeah, I mean, indeed, we launched, so there's a public notification, so it's not yet, it's a draft standardization request, so I think there's 1 month of consultation period now, and then there will be the adoption of the final standardization request. So I think there's also, I mean, it's of course an ambitious goal, and we hear that a lot from stakeholders, and my colleagues are very much engaging also with the European Standardization Organization on this topic. First, maybe to also stress that these standards don't necessarily need to be all built from scratch, that there is also the intention, and ENISA and GRC have already published the first mapping exercise of existing European and international standards. And then, of course, not all of these standards necessarily might lead to presumption of conformity. So presumption of conformity is, of course, very important also for the verticals in particular. But the aim is also to provide maybe more horizontal standards that will give a framework for the verticals to be developed, and that will also give a framework and orientation to the broader community of manufacturers that might not necessarily have from the beginning a product specific standard available. So it will be a huge effort. At the same time, there is also an interest from the industry, right, to contribute for their specific sector, building maybe on what is already there, and for many products you might have already existing standards, to define basically in a consensual manner a standard that will give them a presumption of conformity. So I think there's also a strong incentive for the businesses to invest in that effort. And again, of course, I will give you the usual commission, maybe line to text, that we also make funding available, and but I think there's a real awareness, at least for sure, in our team, that this is very ambitious, that this is a huge effort, but that we also strongly believe that there is let's say things on which we can build, and work has already started, and reflections have already started in the European standardization organizations. Yeah.
Question takeaway: what kind of standards do you prefer, vertical or horizontal? But you don't need to answer, you just need to keep as a homework. What do you want? Yeah, this is what you want to
need
say.
both. You need both.
I wanted to say something about that, yes, because also I cannot give an answer on your question, but I share your concerns, and I also see that there is a huge effort in front of us in designing those standards, not only because of their sheer number, because also they need to address very diverse technologies and products. So we will not have one horizontal standard, for sure. We will talk about microprocessors, about web technologies, about artificial intelligence, most likely. So all completely different technological approaches which ask for different solutions that can be standardized.
Don't have questions anymore from the room. I would like to ask a question for our regulator represented here by Micah. We talk about UCC and how to make it available for CRA presumption of conformity. But what about other European certification scheme underway or in the future? What is the Commission expectation plan for making available certification schemes?
Well, the Commission plan for making available a certification scheme is, of course, that we hope to have soon our second certification scheme. So maybe just as a general rule, and our director mentioned it this morning, and this was also a strong message from the union rolling work program that was on European certification that was published in February is that it's important that now all upcoming certification schemes take into account the Cyber Resilience Act, and also for the reason that they should help this effort of conformity assessment and this challenge also that the panelists have described, that we give as much means as possible for manufacturers to comply with the Cyber Resilience Act. So I think this is the general message now, that upcoming schemes need to take into account the Cyber Resilience Act. And in terms of upcoming schemes, I think they have been discussed throughout the day. So we hope that EUCS can be adopted still in the coming months. A lot of efforts will be put in the certification of ID wallets. Managed security services is more service oriented, but of course they also part of the supply chain, and will also use certain products. So I think CRA is always relevant also to consider in terms of, for instance, vulnerability handling management procedures. Yeah, I think this is, and then of course also in 5G, we discussed EU ICC, NESAs. I think all these products also, that components that will be covered by the CRA and that need to take into account the requirements.
Thank you for your answer. Now, because we talk about processes, we talk about different alternatives, how to make it happen. So I heard, let's talk like a journalist. I heard, BSI, that you are cooking something to help the manufacturers, specific software developer. What did you do? Can you let us know?
I guess you also have a slide on that, haven't you? Yeah, I was asked to bring that slide here, so it's an extremely ugly slide. I have to apologize for that. So let's take a step back. Why do we have the CRA? So I think the answer on that question is because we have poor quality products out there. So we need to take some action against that. And the reason why we have poor products is the processes, how those products are developed, seem to be a bit chaotic. It's insecurity by design. So often we have a vendor where not even the vendor knows what parts of open source components, for example, are inside of his own product. So we have malfunctioning processes at the manufacturers, and now we have a regulation that tries to address those malfunctioning processes on the product side. So we have a regulation on the product, not on the processes. So the default way of assessing or countering those deficits is to have a look at the outcome of the process, which is type examination. It's module B. So you have development processes, and the outcome of the development process is the sample that you give to the conformity assessment body, and then you do a type examination in module B, checking that the product fulfills some requirements which are in the legal text. Then the outcome of that is you are allowed to produce products, and you use module C to make sure that the product that you manufacture indeed is the same that was assessed by the conformity assessment body. So this is a bottleneck, and I said in the beginning, I don't believe that this works very well because of the sheer number of products. If you have thousands of important products that have to undergo module B, module C is not a problem because the vendor applies module B, but module B is a bottleneck. So the only way that I see that could work is module H. Module H is something which is really interesting because it does not address the product itself, but it addresses the processes. So that is exactly what's wrong. So we have to fix, instead of fixing the product and making sure that the products that are on the market are sort of correct, why not fix the malfunctioning processes? And module H means quality assessment, quality assurance. And what we are looking at the BSI is at the moment on using different approaches for management systems like quality management, ISO 9001, but also other management systems. And what we want to do is we want to apply those processes to a cyber resilience-like management system where all the processes that are at the vendor, starting from the development, production, vulnerability management, updates, distribution, and so on, that are all under a secure software development framework under some kind of quality management or cyber resilience management system, which makes sure that the processes at the vendor, at the manufacturer, are in line with the requirements. So for everything what you do, for example, in your common integration, common development system, it's always checked according to the requirements. So that is what we are aiming at. And the advantage is that when you have such a management system, you don't have to certify each and every product that you produce. You only have to certify the management system. And then you are done. So instead of going to a conformity assessment body for your product, you go there once in a year or every 2 years, or what interval you have to do that, have your management system certified that it's in line with the essential requirements of the CRA, and then you are done. So the problem, we don't have the final solution ready right now. The problem is we still need some harmonized standards to make sure that the essential requirements are correctly mapped to the production system or to the development system. So for whatever we have, for example, secure communication, we need a harmonized standard which we can then apply in the management system, and when the software is checked overnight, we have to apply all the tests that are part of the harmonized standard for secure communication, which is pretty easy in my opinion. And then you are done. It is also an advantage for market surveillance because what you get there from the automated system, from the management system, is some audit trails. You can always check that all the processes are in line with the requirements at the manufacturer. So it's particularly easy to do market surveillance in that case. So hopefully, I don't know if the problem is solved. We still have problems, like we need still harmonized standards. But my preference were not to go into the vertical. You asked whether horizontal or vertical, and the answer is horizontal. What we need is horizontal standards, because otherwise I don't think we will manage to produce in a short time enough standards for applying either module B or not applying module B, module A in that case, or module H.
So let me understand. I'm a manufacturer. I'm a little bit stressed that I have to comply with CRA, but I have the solution, and the solution stay in my processes. So if I have my processes very well documented, very well monitored, and if I know that any time the outcome of the process, that sample that my auditor come to evaluate is equivalent, then means that I don't have any stress because I implemented all the requirements of CRA. So sounds very good. But what about if I'm a manufacturer of hardware device, and what if I'm manufacturer of software? So Volmar, this will fly for you?
Yes. So no, to elaborate a bit more on that. So no, I fully support what you were saying. Also, I think this looking into the security management systems, risk management systems, development processes, and related framework is the only way on how we can deal with the way how modern software is developed. Modern software development means agile, automated, based on third-party software. I wouldn't call these processes chaotic, maybe more complex instead. But this cannot be managed in the way if you look at each and every product. And I would also say we're not only having thousands of important products, we also have thousands of those products new every week, because they fall out of automated build process that run overnight or so, and the next day there is a newer software version, which would with the product-based scheme, likely be subject to a new certification effort or so. So this will not work or so. So that means using those development frameworks, and there is already, at least on a global level, a lot of work on how those frameworks could look like, and we're actually also using them in the company from NIST, for instance, standardizing those processes and then also certifying against those processes. I was mentioning the software development lifecycle type of certification before. So I think this is the way how we can cope with this complexity, with the chaos maybe, and ensure also that those automatically produced things are meeting the requirements that we have in the CRA.
So thank you so much. Quickly, what do you know? What do you learn about your vendors? They will be inclined to choose Module H?
From what I've heard so far, probably yes. But I like the approach of introducing testing in some of the phases of the quality management to ensure the compliance with the requirements. But there is also a requirement that mentions that the product needs to be placed on the market free of vulnerabilities. How is that ensured in that kind of framework?
Thank you so much. I know that it's already 5, but I would like to ask if you have... I'm talking by myself. Okay. So it's time for question. I know that it's 5. I would like to ask to take 2 questions. So yeah, we have a question here and one back.
Thank you, Jacques Rosbandau from TÜVIT. I have a question on the implementation of cybersecurity features. So our experience in the last years is when IoT device manufacturers wanted to undergo a certification, they came in a good manner. They thought they would have implemented the cybersecurity features properly. And for example, for a LINTHE certification, which is a black box certification for, let's say, 25 days, they failed after day 2. So we talk about vulnerabilities, we talk about processes, but finally, the implementation is very often the missing part. So if we do paperwork in a CRA way, often discussed in the last days, then nobody would look into the product itself. No pen testing, nothing. So, but this is the implementation. Well, maybe I would like to hear your view on this.
Pen testing could be part of the processes that you as a manufacturer have to apply to make sure. You just have to do that over the night. Yeah, if you say most manufacturers fail at day 2, that is exactly the reason why doesn't the manufacturer do pen testing on his own? It should be part of the development process to do regularly pen testing.
I would like to complete. So Module H doesn't mean only paper, doesn't mean only process. So actually it means also testing the sample. So we have the sample that is tested during the evaluation.
Maybe I can, or you want to,
Just a short remark, you don't have to do that on your own, not necessarily. As a manufacturer could even outsource parts of the processes if you want to. For example, if an ITSEF offers pen testing, and you do that as part of your due diligence procedures as a manufacturer, you outsource pen testing, regular pen testing to some ITSEF. That could be possible under Module H.
I think it's important. I mean, we also see a lot of potential in Module H, and it has always been a bit envisaged indeed as the route to market for software product, because it allows a bit this more agile conformity assessment procedure. But I think it's still important indeed to not oversimplify it. I mean, of course, I think any tool that can help companies to get ready for a CRA and that meets the requirements and the ambition is good to have. Then, of course, if you speak about presumption of conformity or really meeting let's say, the risk-based essential requirements, you need to, this quality management system needs to also indeed implement the testing requirements that are defined for the different essential requirements. So in the standardization process, there will be also, the standardizers will also work on defining the evaluation methodologies and the testing requirements for the different products. So it means that these testing requirements will also need to follow a risk-based approach and will need to be implemented by the quality management system. So I think it is not indeed only about documentation, and of course it needs to follow a risk-based approach, and it needs to take into account the different products that are covered, let's say the specificities of the products that are being also covered by this quality management system.
Thank you. Before to ask your question, are you manufacturer?
Elias Kanzos from Broadcom, manufacturer of hardware and software. And in fact, infrastructure software, security software, fraud prevention software. We have sort of like 17 hardware business units and 9 software business units. So a very complex kind of operation. If we just, for the sake of, let's say, discussion, focus only on the software business units and module H, that would mean if we, a simple, easy calculation, let's say 2 production processes per business unit, that would mean that we have to do 18 conformity assessments on module H alone once every 2 years, which is fine in the end. We're a big company. We can afford to comply with CRA. But can you give us an idea, has there been any estimates? What's the cost approximately associated with a conformity assessment of this type and of that scale? I can tell you we have experience with conformity assessment for common criteria in the defense context, but none of this sort. So I was wondering if there's been any work, any studies in that area. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the impact assessment of the Cyber Resilience Act, and there was an attempt, indeed. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything I think, to give a cost number, because it depends a lot on what what quality management system you're talking about, how the complexity, the size. So, I mean, the average number that was indicated in the impact assessment of the CIA was 25,000 for a third-party conformity assessment procedure. But of course, depending on the product, it is much more, or it can also be less. So, of course, I think certifying processes is often, at least if you look at studies, it's often depicted as being more costly than doing a product certification. But then again, if you can do it to cover several products, and if it enables, let's say, to have a bit this long-term assurance, and then to have only, let's say, an intervention once every year or every 2 years of the third-party assessment, it can be a one-off cost that will kind of be compensated in the mid to long run. And it's true that for the compliance of the CRA, this is a bit the vision that all companies will need to somehow implement these secure development processes, whether they are going to be certified or not. But this is, I think, the cultural change that the CRA wants to trigger, indeed. And we know it has a cost. That's clear. So the challenge will be indeed to try to support as much, also especially the smaller businesses, in getting there.
Thank you so much. Next time I will take more questions, but I would like to ask all my nice panelists to give you a message, a takeaway message. So, member state, short. Member state, Dennis.
Should I just read what's on the screen here? The CRA will change the way how products with digital elements are developed. What you just said. Our goal is to minimize the burden by supporting pragmatic approaches to conformity assessment like Module H. It is important that manufacturers take over responsibility and due diligence from development until the sunset of their products. That's it.
Well, no, I think, yeah, we'll maybe come back to, indeed, my initial message is that there is, of course, a very ambitious goal. What has not been mentioned is that, of course, we also have a certain transition period during which we have to achieve this, this goal. But I think it was also nicely said on this panel that there is a clear reason of why the CRA was necessary, and this is to really trigger this cultural change, especially also in the software world. And we have the CRA gives the possibility to develop a lot of tools. I think also in terms of compliance to think about automation of documentation. Also in terms of market surveillance, how you can maybe automate certain processes or also cooperate across market surveillance possibilities. We spoke about Module H, how we can, you know, try to specify and develop maybe a sort of modular approach or horizontal approach that will give a tool to any company basically to get ready for the CRA. So I think this is the moment to also be creative and to join forces to make this cultural change happen. So thanks a lot also for the commitments of all the industry who are also involved in the standardization process, and of course the Commission is also yeah, putting all its efforts now on the implementation phase.
Thank you. Yes, I'll try to make it short. I'm not going to read it out, but I try to make it even shorter. So what I've said before, I think most of the software industry is already taking security as a priority. So that means the essential requirements that we see and also the concept of certification are not new. What is new is NLF and the concepts, modules, procedures, and the like, and there is a need for, say, allowing the industry to make themselves familiar with that. But I would also be optimistic that this is a challenge that can be met, and then indeed CRA would have the chance and would deliver on the chance to increase cybersecurity in Europe.
Well, my takeaway. In general, we could say that CRA is putting quite a heavy burden on the manufacturers, but also offers different alternatives, ones involving more assurance, more effort, others involving less for manufacturers to get this demonstration of compliance. So there are alternatives in the industry to choose the way that fits better or is better suited. I think, or is better suited for your particular sector or business case. We didn't talk about it, but there is an ongoing effort from the companies, especially the testing labs, in adaptation to become notifying bodies under the CRA. There are also some working groups in Sensenelec studying the adaptation of the cybersecurity labs that scope cybersecurity requirements in red. They will be probably notified under CRA because there is some work to find the equivalence between the essential requirements in CRA and the ones in the red. And UCC, we had the chance yesterday to present again the results of the study that we did. and well, it will be a way to go for certain sectors in the industry in the presumption of conformity. We are going to continue investigating and investing in this path during the upcoming weeks and months. Hopefully we could find let's say, if not flawless, at least very well polished formula for presumption of conformity through CRA.
Thank you so much. I would like to ask you something, Dennis, because I saw that you are prepared for helping open source software, and you have something created for cryptographic libraries. So you already started to implement CRA by validated cryptographic library. It's good to share this. Maybe other member states will follow your.
Some colleagues have developed a test suite for TLS, but that was not really in focus of the CRA. That was something which we did a couple of years ago, I think. So now it comes in handy. Yeah, it's one of those things that we could use for CRA. Yeah, but we need, of course, more than only TLS.
Let's work together. Thank you so much to all of you, and thank you so much to audience, because you had the patience to let us to finish. Thank you.
Hello, Adria. Thank you. Thank you very much again. So we have now reached towards the end of today's agenda. And I would like to invite Maika to stay a bit longer at the stage, and Philippe as well, to deliver the closing remarks. Your expertise and insights would provide the perfect conclusion to our event. So would you like to share your thoughts with our audience?
Yes, of course. So we will be short because it's been a long week. It's been a long day. So the points I've seen during the discussions today. So that is, first, we have a plan. As compared to last year, where it was a bit more fuzzy, it seems we have a plan. At least we have more plans, even more than one. So first, we have a sexy certification, and we have a nice community. So let's combine them together. We have a new toy, the CEF platform. I'm not sure this is what I would call a sexy platform, but we can make it happen. And I would really gladly invite everyone to join that platform so that we can have the community grow with this tool. You were mentioning tools. This is exactly where people that are supportive of the certification activities and beyond, because I mean, we are developing the certification platform, but it can be useful for other areas like compliance with CRA. And the tools that were, there is a ENISA website, which is a legal instrument. We will display the schemes and the certificates. No interaction with consultancy, no interaction with promotion of this or that activity. But the CEF platform will be the place to promote things. We have to make EUCC a success, both for cybersecurity, but also for the ecosystem, because it's a good business. We have to solve the IT CEF accreditation problem. This is something we have started to undertake. We have to establish guidance for the transformation of SOGAE certificates into EUCC. This is something we had started. We have to finalize it. I've noted also the issue on vulnerability handling, which is a tough one. So first we have to make sure we all try to combine the approaches the vendors know, CVSCCs, with the approaches the ITSFs know, or the CAPs know, the SEM quotation things, both for the assessment and then afterwards for also handling vulnerabilities. On the vulnerability management, I would insist a lot that the guidance we have developed is not about only covering recertification based on corrections, but also the fact that we shall correct. And sometimes there is a bit of confusion between the timelines under which we correct and the timelines under which we recertify. And I would insist that based on the CRA mapping anyway and the compliance, that we make that happen, that not confusing the two. We have to be smart and to optimize the schemes between themselves, so reuse as much accreditation principles from one scheme to the other, so that the CAPs that are accredited, they can be accredited for more than one scheme, possibly. And also the interplay between certification and regulation, EU regulation. Commission this morning, Lorena was pretty clear that everything shall comply with the CRA. Fine, let's make it happen, and let's make it happen first with EUCC and see how it can be used later. We have also the optimization with wallet, AI, and so on. We have to develop new schemes, manage security services, but not too many, because otherwise we create fragmentation between the schemes, and already there are lots of schemes, newborn schemes and so on, so we want to reduce as much as possible, and there are possible ways. Belgium was very keen on providing elements to support that. We have to think international. Despite it's the EU business, we have to think international, use as much as possible international standards. We didn't think so far to push European standards so that become international standards. Maybe it will be time with the cloud to think about that when it will be adopted. We have to think mutual recognition also to establish that. And last but not least, we have to be proactive. If you think the CSA has flaws, let's share these elements with us. We have to take care of this. That would be my conclusions of today's discussions. Micah, please.
Yes. No, thanks. I think you provided a very comprehensive recap. And maybe just to react and stress some of the points you said, I think, we just discussed the challenges in terms of implementing the CRA, in particular when it comes to conformity assessment. And here in the certification community, we have all the experts that know everything about testing methodologies, evaluating methodologies, developing certification schemes. So I really believe that there is a lot of things we can also tap for the CIA. That basically the new legislative framework and the Cybersecurity Act are not two separate worlds. I think they kind of need to merge somehow, or at least this is what we are trying to do. We spoke also about accreditation. You mentioned also for the ECC, for instance, the discussion about vulnerability handling and how to ensure the maintenance of certified solutions when it comes to vulnerability management. These will be really crucial questions also for the Cyber Resilience Act, for instance. So that's why I think, we to reiterate basically the importance of this legislation that will impact a huge ecosystem, but also the need for everyone to contribute to the implementation effort, also to ensure consistency. And Then I think in terms of the certification priorities, I agree with Philippe for once. I think for once. No, I mean not that I agree with you for once, but for once we have quite, I think, a clear plan, and this maybe is also stemming from the Union Rolling Work program that we were proud to eventually publish, and I think it's also very important indeed to give this steering a bit, I mean, to have a vision of where we are going with the certification schemes. So indeed, I think now all efforts are on the implementation of EUCC and making it a success, and then also looking at the next certifications to come, which we already mentioned several times today. So yeah, thanks for the good discussion. I think very exciting time ahead. And indeed, CSA, you mentioned CSA review, so we are now in the process of evaluating the Cybersecurity Act, and the decision for review will of course be for the next commission. But also to stress what you say, it's a very important moment for reflection, and also to share your feedback and input on how the framework could be improved. So our doors are also very open at the Commission to discuss about this. Thanks.
Okay, so thanks for the participation to the Cyber Week, to this conference. Have safe trips home, and see you next year. Bye, everyone.